I refused to give my mom my inheritance, she invited me to a family meeting. When I arrived, they had lawyers ready to force me to sign it over. But the moment they handed me the papers, I smiled and said, "Funny, I brought someone too." My family never met for anything unless it was to cause drama, but something about it felt different. The wording was off, too formal. I almost didn't go. But then, something in my gut told me I needed to see what they were up to. The invitation came on thick cream stationery, the kind you'd use for a wedding announcement. "The Hanson family requests your presence for an important family discussion," it read, followed by a date, time, and my mother's address. At the bottom, in smaller print, regarding the estate of William Jensen. Using my father's full name like that, so impersonal, made my blood boil. To them, he wasn't a person, he was an estate, a collection of assets they felt entitled to. I called my best friend, Mike, that night. We'd been close since college, and he'd been a rock through Dad's death and everything after. "They're planning something," I told him, pacing my apartment. "I can feel it." "So don't go," Mike said simply. "You don't owe them anything. But if I don't show up, I'll never know what they're trying to pull." Mike was quiet for a moment. "Then go, but be prepared. And maybe bring backup." That got me thinking. Dad had always trusted his lawyer, a straight-talking woman named Patricia Ramirez who'd helped him set up his will and handled his business affairs for years. I'd met with her after Dad died, and she'd been clear about everything. The will was solid, my mother had no claims, all the paperwork was in order. I called Patricia the next morning and explained the situation. She listened without interrupting, then said, "This sounds like an ambush. If you're going, I'm coming with you. But don't say anything about me beforehand." "You think they're that serious?" I asked, surprised by her immediate offer to help. "Your father was very clear about his wishes," she replied. "He also warned me about your mother. Said she'd try something like this if he died first. I promised him I'd make sure his will was respected." The day of the meeting, I felt sick to my stomach. Patricia and I agreed to arrive separately, me right on time, her a few minutes later, once the meeting had started. As I drove to my mother's house, memories flooded back. The few awkward holidays I'd spent there as a teenager. The way Richard would talk down to Dad when they had to interact for school events. The constant comparisons between me and my half-siblings. I parked on the street rather than in the driveway, giving myself an easy exit. Taking a deep breath, I walked up to the house I'd never felt welcome in and rang the doorbell. When I walked into my mom's house that day, I knew immediately that I had walked into an ambush. The living room had been set up like some kind of courtroom. My mom sat in the center next to her husband, smug as ever. My half-siblings were there too, looking way too pleased with themselves. And then there were the two men in suits. Lawyers. I didn't even get a hello. One of the lawyers stood up and said, "We're here to discuss the proper distribution of your father's assets." I almost left. "Proper distribution?" He handed me a thick stack of papers. "This is a revised agreement. It outlines a fair division of the inheritance among all immediate family members." I flipped through it. They wanted me to sign over 75% of everything. The house, the savings, even my dad's car. I looked up at my mom. "You have got to be kidding me." She sighed dramatically, like I was some disobedient child. "This is the best solution for everyone. You don't need all of it. Be reasonable." Reasonable? They wanted to take everything my father worked for, everything he left for me, and they thought I would just roll over and let them. I took a deep breath and smiled. "Funny," I said, tossing the papers onto the coffee table. "I brought someone too." The door swung open, and in walked my lawyer. But not just any lawyer, my father's lawyer. The one who drafted his will. The one who knew every single legal safeguard my dad put in place to prevent exactly this from happening. My mom's face went pale. Her husband shifted uncomfortably in his seat. My lawyer didn't waste any time. She picked up their so-called agreement and flipped through it. Then without looking up, she said, "This is cute. Illegal, but cute." One of the other lawyers cleared his throat. "We believe that given the circumstances, a redistribution." My lawyer cut him off. "Let me stop you right there. The will is ironclad. Any attempt to contest it will be laughed out of court. And if you so much as try to coerce my client into signing away his inheritance, we will press charges for fraud and attempted extortion." Dead silence. Then, my mom's voice, sharp and desperate, "You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't take your own mother to court." I looked her dead in the eye. "Try me." The room was silent. No one dared to move. My mom, who always had something to say, just stared at me like she didn't recognize the person in front of her. My half-sister, usually full of fake sympathy, suddenly looked like she wanted to sink into the couch. My stepdad? He was gripping the armrest so hard his knuckles had gone white. Then, the lawyer sitting next to my mom cleared his throat. "There's no need for hostility. We're just trying to come to a mutual agreement." Mutual agreement, my ass. I folded my arms and leaned back in my chair. A mutual agreement would have been talking to me before you had a lawyer draft up a document that steals what's mine. My lawyer flipped the contract shut and dropped it onto the table. This document wouldn't hold up in court for 2 seconds. And if you think my client is signing anything today, you're out of your minds. My mom exhaled sharply. This is ridiculous. I turned to her. No. What's ridiculous is you trying to manipulate me into handing over everything my dad left me. Her voice turned sharp. He didn't leave it to you because he loved you more. He just didn't think things through. You don't need all of it. Your siblings deserve their fair share. I clenched my jaw. My siblings? You mean the 2 people who barely even acknowledged Dad existed? The ones who never visited him in the hospital, never called him on his birthday, never lifted a finger when he was sick? They don't deserve a damn thing. My half-brother, who had been sitting quietly in the corner this whole time, suddenly snapped, that's not fair. We weren't close to him because he never tried with us. He always favored you. I turned to face him. You mean the man you called a washed-up loser the last time he asked you to come over for Christmas? That man. He turned red but said nothing. Then, my stepdad, who had been silent up until now, leaned forward. Listen, son. I cut him off. Don't call me that. His face darkened, but he forced a fake smile. All right. Look. We can all sit here and argue, or we can find a way to make this work for everyone. My lawyer smirked. Oh, we have found a way to make this work. It's called following the will. Then my lawyer reached into her briefcase and pulled out a folder. She slid it across the table toward my mom's lawyer. That contains a full legal breakdown of the will, copies of my client's rights, and a cease and desist order. If you or your clients continue harassing my client for money, we will pursue legal action. My mom's lawyer flipped through the pages, his face growing more serious by the second. That's when my mom snapped. She stood up so fast her chair nearly tipped over. You would do this to your own family? I looked up at her. You stopped being my family the moment you tried to steal from me. Her hands curled into fists. You think you're so much better than us, don't you? I just stared at her. And then she did something that made my blood run cold. She smiled. Not a normal smile. A calculated one. She sat back down, smoothed out her blouse, and sighed. All right. Fine. She gestured at her lawyer. We won't fight it. That was too easy. Way too easy. My lawyer must have sensed it too because she narrowed her eyes. Good. Then we'll be taking our leave. We gathered our things and walked to the door. But just as I stepped out, my mom called after me. Take care of that house, sweetheart. I paused, turned back. Her smile was still there. You never know when accidents can happen. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up.